Hey there, hockey heads. It's your buddy Choppadong, and today is a NHL version of DFS Diary. We've already done the Draftkings edition earlier. We shifted it up. We searched by value today, and that's what we're going to be focused on with NHL as well, because with such a big slate, you're going to have to know where the value is. It's going to be everywhere. Big slates offer more value, just more players to choose from. It's just natural. So we'll also focus on a little bit of stacks. We'll go game by game, see maybe what offenses we want to target, and we'll dive in. But first, of course, you can always find me out on Twitter at Choppadong. You can find the links to all of our content in my pinned tweet. I'm asking for little retweets to enter March sweeps. If you want to get in there, go for it. I'm buying somebody's membership in March, and we're going to do it with or without you. So you might as well retweet it and drop your name in there. I will offer many other opportunities throughout the month, and people will have more than one chance to win. So that's a good thing. I got a comment on YouTube. I threw it out on Twitter today. I really appreciate it. Main reason I'm making money is on DraftKings this week. Hey, I'll take it, man. I love hearing comments like this. It's social media. It's supposed to be social. It's kind of right there in the name. So let's dive in and interact. Follow me out there. Follow me. Leave me a comment on YouTube. Hit the link at the bottom in the comments section, dfsarmy.com. Subscribe. Become a member today. Use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, and deliver that 20% off discount to your own bank account, not mine. And let's dive into a little bit of NHL research today. A couple things to start off with. Philly and Washington are on back-to-backs. And when I'm looking at the goals scored, goals for and goals against, it's just a real brief walk down. I'm looking for teams that are scoring a lot of goals that are green and a lot of goals against, which would be red, because if this was green, this would mean they're an outstanding defense because it's from their perspective. So green here, well, red here. Green here, red here. So Christmas time, think Christmas. And I like to look on the last 10 games. I'm not a big fan of the overall season stuff. We're getting so far into the season now that the numbers back in October don't mean crap to me anymore. I'm really looking for the more recent opportunities, the more recent hot streaks, the more recent teams playing well. And we have to know a little bit of what was going on throughout the year. Like St. Louis started off bad, Buffalo started off great, and they've since both kind of reversed courses a little bit. So we do have to pay attention to that and how it may skew the numbers and may not be telling us exactly what we see. That's why we focus on those last 10 games. And then we'll dive into the skaters page, skaters tab, and we'll kind of do a little bit of value searching, kind of do a little bit of stacking type stuff as well. So back to back, I'd be a little bit weary about them going out on the road. Columbus has been playing pretty well lately, but both teams are giving up some goals. If you get a tired defense, I would expect a lot of goals out of Columbus tonight, especially since they are scoring. You might want to watch the Panarin news as the trade deadline nears and just make sure that he's in the lineup tonight. Other than that, they're pretty much all in play. There's going to be some value on that team, Boone Jenner types, always day in and day out. New York Islanders, not on them offensively, certainly not liking teams that go up against them, so that takes Buffalo off for me. Doesn't mean they can't blow up. As always, it's hockey. It's a volatile sport, but I think the odds are pretty low. Chicago has been hot lately. I haven't seen an L10 this high in a long time. I mean, I've seen it over 4 for San Jose, at times for Pittsburgh, Washington, big offenses like those, but I haven't seen a 4.7. That's a pretty ridiculous number. They're also allowing goals against because that top unit doesn't play a lot of defense. So that puts Boston in a pretty good spot if you can tell which line's going to match up against that top unit. I would suspect, being that they have home shift advantage, it'd be the top Boston line. It would put Marchand, Pasternak, and those guys right in line for a good night. Of course, Kane and Taves, Strome, DeBrincat, Gustafsson, Seabrook a little bit. Those types are also in a good spot. I really like the second line on the road, so that would have me on Strome and DeBrincat tonight. Hopefully they're not too terribly chalky with this low total and these big odds against. I think this is just bullshit. You're looking at a 7-2 team going into a 5-2 team. I mean, Boston's great. Boston's at home. Boston's strong, but Chicago's sustainably hot recently, and they've been winning freaking games. How that's a minus 200, I will never understand. Although, looking down here at the projected goalie, Cam Ward's not nearly as good, so maybe that's where Vegas is getting some of their numbers. It does make me like Boston a little bit more. Dallas, not anything to write home about. Florida is in a tough spot facing Dallas, and I just don't see it. I know that I've been using Vetrano a ton lately, and he's fine, but I think I've got another one in mind that I want to see his spot if they play tonight. Carolina Hurricanes, 3.8. That's a big bump for them. They're not typically an offensive team. They're a little more of a defensive team. They do allow shots, but they typically are pretty good at keeping them out of their own net. Ottawa's not really scoring a lot. Doesn't really matter too much, but they're not allowing a ton. They are on the season. They aren't lately. Although Carolina still is in a good spot. They'd be probably in the top quarter of teams that I'd want to roster. So let's say 12 games, 24 teams. They'd be in the top 6, top 5, top 6 for sure. Calgary, obviously, juggernaut offense. Tampa Bay has been playing good defense lately, has not been scoring a ton of late, but this is the type of game, to me, kind of screams, watch out for the playoffs, ratchet things up a little bit, probably wind up playing a little more defensive. Not that either, well, Tampa Bay is more defensive than Calgary. Calgary's not exactly a defensive team. Philly's on a back-to-back. It's just, there's something about this game that I'm not real high on. I would have pieces of it maybe in cash games and such. Not something that I'm looking to game stack and expect to get too out of line. Philadelphia has been allowing goals on the season, has not been allowing goals lately. They've been scoring all right. They've provided decent value, but going on the road again back-to-back, they were in Washington last night. Now they have to go all the way to Minnesota. I think they were in Washington. No. Where were they? You know what? This season gets so dizzying at times that it just all runs together. Forgive me for that mistake, but Philly is on the road. They were on the road last night. Washington was at home. Minnesota is not an easy place to play, but they have been giving up goals lately, and they have not been scoring goals. So I've heard people chirping around the industry about Zucker, Granlund, all that. I'm going to tell you, bite me, because I just don't see it. I can see it happening against a Philly, but Philly hasn't been allowing a ton of goals lately, and these guys haven't been scoring lately. That's a bad sign for Minnesota. I'd be more intrigued by Philadelphia going up against a typically good defense that's not as good recently. But it's more of a GPP call, being a back-to-back road game. New Jersey, St. Louis. I would love to say stack St. Louis. Oh, excuse me there. I would love to say stack St. Louis. And I know there are guys, Ryan O'Reilly, Pietrangelo, Parayko, Tarasenko's been hot. There are other factors in those offenses that do matter. I would tell you the real sneaky play for me would be Jaden Schwartz. Jaden Schwartz has like 3 goals on the year, and it's absolutely ridiculous. If you look at his numbers and dive in a little bit to scoring chances, expected goals, things like that. I heard somebody mention that there was a simulation model that they ran 1,000 scenarios like this. And to this point in the season, given the shooting numbers that Jaden Schwartz has displayed, there's only, out of those 1,000 runs of that simulator, there were only 3 times where he had this few goals at this point in the season. That's how much of an outlier you're looking at with Jaden Schwartz right now. He should bounce back at some point. Will it be tomorrow or tonight? I don't know. But at some point, it might not be a bad idea as a cheap one-off to start flinging him in there. Being that he's on the second line, I'd probably save it for when St. Louis is on the road. Be my advice. But it's not a terrible play tonight as a one-off, because New Jersey without Taylor Hall is just not that good. You can see the red is dangerous, so they've been giving up goals, and that puts St. Louis in a good spot coming off of a couple of performances where they've been playing really, really well. They've won 6 in a row. Bennington's been great in goal. He's in play tonight. New York Rangers love this top line, always. They're great. Goals against, very interesting. Their road record, 4.0. That puts Winnipeg in a great spot. And Winnipeg's home goals against are 4.5 on the season, 4.1 lately. It's a good sign for Winnipeg. Not a very good sign for the New York Rangers defense or for Henrik Lundqvist. So he'll probably shut him out tonight. We'll go Oppo Chapo with that call. I don't like the offense other than the fact that they're just, the top line's just doing work, man. They're not getting help from anybody else. So if you go look at the game logs, your Zuccarellos and Zibanejad and whatever are still producing. And I think that's what has people off of them largely. So being that we know Winnipeg can really suck at home too, I think that I like them as a sneaky spot tonight. Detroit, off of them, they are giving goals against. That puts Nashville in a good line. One thing I would do, if you're looking at Nashville, yeah, you can run Arvidsson, you can run these other guys, but honestly, they're not real high-scoring types of guys. I would look at Roman Josi. The reason I would look at Roman Josi is because he quarterbacks the power play. He overlaps the top two scoring lines. It doesn't matter where he is. He factors into the offense and likely has a piece of the goals. If they score 3 or 4 goals tonight, he's probably got a piece of at least one, and he probably has a piece of the second one. Maybe even more. He's the type of guy that has that kind of upside and gets you exposure to this offense, then allows you to get exposure to other offenses in the forms of stacks. This is how I love using expensive defensemen, if I can justify it with other value. And I can certainly justify it. When I look at Toronto, I'm looking at who is Hyman still on our top line? I know Kadri's been great. There's cheap access to this lineup, and that's the stuff you're looking for. Tavares, Austin Matthews, all great, but Marner, Marlowe, whatever, all great in play, but your value is going to come out of Kadri and probably Hyman, probably not so much Kapanen anymore, but if Hyman's up on that top line, definitely look at him. He would be the guy I would use to replace whoever it was that I mentioned before, Vetrano. Whoever it is I replaced before. Colorado, in a vacuum, yeah, you're going to like any individual, McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, whatever. But as a unit, as a stack, they're very expensive. On a big slate like this is when you would use it because you've got the value elsewhere to go to. You can't use them on a 3 or 4 game slate. It's damn near impossible to roster a competitive lineup that way. But on a big slate like tonight, you can use them. And I think you're going to hear a lot of advice out there around the league saying, yeah, they're too expensive. They're $22,000, blah, 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 blah. But I'll tell you what, when you've got the value to go around them and roster them anyway, you can use them on slates like this. This is what the Crosby, Malkin, Hornquist, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Carlson. That's what these stacks are built for, is these huge, huge slates. Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak. Those are those huge slates where you've got to find the value elsewhere, and it makes sense to do so. Many people say, well, I can't afford that, or I can't really do, I got to get this offense and that offense. And you hear me say that too. But honestly, you're really looking more at having the available value to roster such a thing and take that kind of a game plan. So if you want to, tonight's probably the night. Tonight may even be the matchup because Toronto's not great defensively. So don't be surprised if you look in your GPP at the end of the night and you see some dude with 220 points hit all of his value one-offs and hit a Colorado stack for freaking gonzo bonkers points. It can happen. I don't know if it's a GPP winner necessarily, but if it is, you heard it here first. Don't be shocked, and you might even throw a buck on it yourself. Arizona and Vegas wrapping up the hammer game of the night. Big 225 odds. The 5.5 is a little bit misleading. I think there's a ton of value on the Vegas side of things. We know over here there is, with the Panics and the Hinnestrovs and whatever that we've talked about off and on. I don't like them as much tonight, although it looks like in the last few games Vegas has been giving up goals. But look, so has Arizona. And Vegas has been scoring some goals lately. They've been doing okay, and they're cheap. Dirt cheap. They don't need to score 5 or 6 goals for you tonight, and they might. But they're really you're more interested in taking some of these sub 5K guys, sub 6 or 7K guys on Fanduel, and really running them out there. Like your Marsha shows, your Statsneys, Colin Miller. You want a decent stack at home, top line with Colin Miller. Those are decent plays. You want a cheap stack that would allow you to maybe run a double stack with Colorado? That would be interesting. Or with Boston, or with somebody big. This would be how I would do it. I might come in here and see if I can't grab 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of these guys. Mostly, probably Carlson at center and Colin Miller would be my first look. If I could throw Marsha Show in there, I would, and then I would go grab somebody else. My second value probably would be Chicago with line 2, Strome and DeBrincat. And my third might be Zuccarello Zibanejad. Those types would definitely be on my radar and on my list. 1 off for Schwartz, 1 off for Hyman in Toronto if he's in there, 1 off in Carl Soderberg down here if you're not stacking the game. There's 1-offs everywhere on this slate. Connect needs a decent 1-off. I'm sure there's somebody on Tampa Bay I'm just not thinking of right now. Looking down here, Carolina, some like Teravainen type. Ottawa, Florida. Vetrano's not in a great spot tonight. Whoever's on line 1 in Dallas with Sagan, if Ben is not there, if it's Sagan and Radulov and somebody else, there is value out there. Even your Sam Reinerts, there's value out there for sure. Boone Jenner, again. So you can make it work, I would imagine. And there's probably cheap value on defense. Let's dive in. What are we at? 15 minutes. Let's dive in really quick. Sort the skaters tab. Look for some mispriced dudes. And then save the real deep stuff for VIP discussion inside our coaching forums at dfsarmy.com, because those are the guys that really get the good stuff every single day. So sort that out by Fanduel average last 5 games. We can compare. We can play buyers and sellers. 29 versus 22. So Voracek is a buy. Kane 29 versus 37. Probably a sell. Probably coming back down, although he's been on a sick run. 29-24. Kuznetsov probably a buy, being reunited with Alexander Ovechkin. 29-28. About the same for Taves, consistent. 28-26. 28-28. So none of these guys, and DeBrincat at his price at 28 points sustained is kind of sick. 28-22 for Patrice Bergeron. If you want Boston exposure, it's a good one. 27 versus 19 for Vladimir Tarasenko. That hat trick helps everybody. Looking down for some of the bigger ones. 17, 16, and 23. Mark Stone. Interesting. Wouldn't have thought that otherwise. 17-23 Claude Giroux, so it's pointing at Philly again. You got to look at the matchups, and you almost have to go back and look at what they did in the last 3 games or so. Were they in tough defensive matchups like St. Louis was, going to Tampa Bay and then Nashville, home and home, or were they in softer matchups where they were playing offensive teams, and that lead to some of the production? So really and truly, this Tarasenko move from a 19 to a 27 is pretty sick, considering he played Nashville twice and Tampa Bay. That's a pretty sick move for tough matchups and still came out with buku points. It's a good thing. So we'll scroll over here. That gives you one idea of how to look down that list. Here's the other one that I love to do. I'm just going to sort by position and look for my centers. Which are my values? I've already got it sorted by the top 5 games fantasy point average. So the big hot guys are up top, and it descends. It drops as it goes down. I'm looking for out of place salaries. Couturier, always on this list. It seems like 7,100. Whoop. Dylan Strome. This is why I mention these guys. This is why these guys have been making us money lately. Brock Nelson, Brian Little, 4,100. Casey Middlestat, they're way down this list. This is where it's actually pretty well organized. I wouldn't play any of the $8,000 guys down this low on the list. They need to be up at the top, like a John Tavares. Not my thing. But, these guys are all priced fairly appropriately. It does look like there is a little bit of value here and there. If we do the same thing for defense, look at Pulak at the top of the list. How about that stuff? Definitely playable right now. You don't even need to know the numbers to know that. 4,800 Seabrook, playable. Heiskanen, playable. 3,900 Goligoski, playable. 4,300 Osterley, playable. Now down in here, I want to see the $3,000 guys. McAvoy, he'd be okay. I probably wouldn't choose him over some of these guys, especially not, $3,000 guys like this that are a little bit higher on the list than him. So that changes things up a little bit. Now, if you wanted to go into GPP stacking and take a Parayko with a couple of blues, you're going to need to do that. He's high enough on the list. You're okay. Yeah, does it look like the $3,900 guy is better because he's points-wise getting you the same amount of points for 500 less? Yes, but, if one scores and the other doesn't, you make me look like the fool. Looking for big quarterbacks. Josie up here at 6,900. Well, that is a tough pill to swallow, isn't it? The value's there. You might use him as one of your, I don't know if I'd use him necessarily as a full stack. I do like him better as a one-off still, but man. I'd love him in tier 3 if I was playing tiers. That'd be awesome. Because I wonder how many people would end up taking a defenseman out of there, unless a lot of those tier 3 players are defensemen. So looking at the wings, looking for out-of-place stuff. See, 9,300, Patrick Kane, right up there where he should be. But we mentioned he's cooling off. 8,800, Ovechkin should be a little bit higher on this list. If we were just organizing straight by salary. Now, you don't have to come down very far. DeBrincat's fine. Voracek's fine. Atkinson's fine. Mark Stone's probably a little bit better. 5,000. Josh Anderson's phenomenal for Columbus. And Columbus is in a good spot tonight. Don't look at the Colorado. Look at the Columbus. Down here, scroll down a little bit. Teravainen, mentioned him. Kahun, it's interesting. Very interesting. There's a cheaper exposure to that second line of Strome and DeBrincat. So if you wanted to run Strome and Cahoon, you might dodge, the $7,200 DeBrincat bullet. 3,600 Roslovic, no. No. Still a turd trap. Look at his game logs. Hasn't done anything. He's virtually vanished. 8,600. Sorry, Kucherov. You need to be way up here at 8,600. 6,700. 6,700 is maybe okay. 5,200. Galinchuk, Saad, possibly playable. Don't like Galinchuk probably on the road as much. 5,600. 44, 4,300. Bertuzzi, Hyman. There's Hyman. Line 1, no power play exposure, but line 1 in Toronto. We mentioned that was a good spot. 4,400, fine. I mean, you can scroll down even more if you want. Start looking for the low 4K and the 3K guys that are up here towards the tops of these lists. Evan Rodriguez in Buffalo, want a one-off? If you need a one-off, there you go. 3,900, Brent Connolly. I'd rather have Rodriguez with more ice time. Second unit, second power play unit versus third line and no power play time. Looking down this list, nothing else really stands out to me a ton. I think you've got something to go with there. My favorite stacks again tonight would be going back to this page and kind of picking through what teams I really, really like. What teams are scoring goals versus giving up goals, and who's matching up against the teams that are doing so. And you're going to have to do it by memory, apparently, because this screen just all went white on me, which really, really bugs me when it slows down like this. So we just simply reset the machine, call it back up, recap really, really quick. In the meantime, contemplate becoming a member. DFSarmy.com, coupon code CHOP. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, all that good stuff down there in the YouTube area. Spread me around on social media. Get entered in March sweeps. Washington, Columbus, I like better. No, yes, not really, no, sort of, not really. Didn't really see a lot there for as overpriced as they are. I like Tampa probably better than Calgary. Philly, if they weren't on a back-to-back, I'd be more interested. Minnesota, not so much. Jersey, no. St. Louis, yeah, there's some sneaky spots there. New York, yeah, top line. Winnipeg, definitely in play. Not really for Vancouver. Nashville, definitely in play. Toronto in play. Colorado, this is the time to do it if you're going to do it. Arizona, no. Golden Knights, yes. Yes. So 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 top line, so call it 3.5. Nah, can't say that I want St. Louis in every lineup. I can't even say I want Tampa Bay in every lineup. They're pricey. Can't say I want Carolina in every lineup. So maybe 4. So there's 4 teams that I would be keying on tonight. The offenses, we'll see how they pan out. After all, it's hockey, it's volatile. Roll the dice up, throw them out, yell Yahtzee, and we'll see what we don't come out with on the other side tonight. Make sure that your lineups are really, really correlated in your tournaments tonight. That's a key. Making sure one-offs ain't going to win it tonight. There's way too many options. You could say one here, one here, one here, one here. Unless you're pegging hat tricks on all of them, you ain't going to win, because somebody's going to be dumping 1 or 2 goals, maybe a hat trick or something like that on you, and picking up assists from his line mates. And that's what's going to screw you in the one-off game. I don't even know that I'd play a lot of cash tonight. Personally, I like taking slates like this, going on the smaller, 3 and 4 game mini slates, and taking my shots there, as opposed to playing some big monster 12-game slate in such a volatile sport. But if you want the big GPP type prizes, the bigger ones at least that hockey has to offer, you're going to have to dive out into that main slate and fight those 12 games off with everybody else. Come and see me. Let's go talk inside DFS Army. Let's hit those coaching channels. We'll talk a little bit back and forth. And if not, I will see you guys when I see you out here. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for commenting and helping me spread the word out there on social media. Really do appreciate it. I will talk to you all tomorrow.